Today, we are going to go over my 3 books that I recommend on every homestead, as well as a couple that are on my wish list. I remember when we moved to our 14 acres in Tennessee from the suburbs of California, there was just so much I didn't know. And I remember just praying that the Lord would provide someone into our lives that could help us to understand the land and what to do with it and how to care about the animals or the land that we have, and essentially how to navigate this life. It was just a short while after when I was giving away some of our hay rounds that were left by the previous owner on Facebook Marketplace, and the family that replied to that came out to our property and to retrieve the hay rounds, but also they were a blessing to us because they walked with us through the property and told us about the different plant life that was present here, what kind of animals would work well on our property, and the benefits and challenges that we might have going forward. And that was just a huge blessing to us. But it wasn't long before they were gone and more questions came. And it took us a little while to get to know our neighbors. Moving from the suburbs of California to 14 acres here in Tennessee, we weren't used to having our neighbors so spread out, as well as some of them had gates and different passageways that we weren't sure, do we open the gate? Are we allowed to go through? And so we just kind of waited until we could see them out and about, and then we introduced ourselves and got to know them, and they're so friendly and wonderful. If you are moving from the suburbs or city life into rural living or country life or homesteading, one of my top recommendations is get to know your neighbors. They know the area, they've done it, especially if you're moving to an area with neighbors that have been planted there for years and years. Many of our neighbors have lived here their whole lives in this general area, and so they know all the cool spots and neat tricks and everything that would be needed to succeed locally in this spot. And as you'll find out later in this video, I love the type of learning that comes from somebody's grandpa and great-grandpa and great-great-grandpa that's been passed down for generations. That's the way to do it in the country way of doing things. That's definitely what I'm looking for. So it's been a few years that we've been living here, and I finally picked out some books. I was navigating through a sea of books and just so many options online for what to buy. And I reached out to different groups online, Facebook groups, and I scoured through the history of all these groups because so many people like me want book recommendations. We want something tangible that we can hold, that acts like a guide that we can go through, see the pictures, reference them, or if I don't know what I'm looking for, then I can just crack it open and see what is ready to be revealed for me. I have a lot to learn, and these books are a major step in the right direction. These are the books that I wish I had before I even got our property. These are the books I wish I was reviewing and going through instead of just sitting on Instagram looking at other people homesteading or even going over YouTube. This is something that I can read and look at and observe and understand all put together. Having books in hand is essential, especially if the grid goes down or power goes out or whatever happens. You can have something to reference that you're not going to have to worry about having your ebook charged or Kindle or whatever it is, but you have all the knowledge you need right in your hands. So let's get into it. My first book recommendation is Back to Basics. It's a complete guide to traditional skills, and it is incredible. It's edited by Abigail Gehring, and I'll put the links to all the books down in the description, even those I don't have physically here today, even those that are on my wish list. This is a book that I wish I had back when I was sitting in the desert, wishing I had more property, because it even gives you information about buying and working the land. Now, our property was just a miracle upon miracles, but we can get into that story another time. But if I was able to understand what I was looking for when buying a property and what was beneficial and what would help us with livestock, and this book would have been a gem to have then. It's packed with information I wish I knew and packed with information that I'm excited to learn. So not only does it tell you how to buy and work your land, it also is packed with recipes and projects and ways that you can generate income on your homestead. It has so much information about being self-sufficient with where you are. And a lot of this can be done not even with giant land. You can do this, you can implement this book's practical advice even on a small parcel. One thing I love about this book in particular is the illustrations. Not only is everything labeled, so it makes it really easy for someone like me to understand, but also it looks like there's things that are new photographs that have been added in, but also images that have been around for a long time. They're a little bit pixelated even, which just makes me feel like I'm getting the authentic, real thing. This information has been passed down from person to person, and it's helpful, thorough information. It covers such a wide range of topics. Here's another example of some of the photographs that are in this book. You can see how old they are, and I just love the attention to detail that's put into this book. Now, if I was going to start with only one book, this would be it. It's the Encyclopedia of Country Living, and it makes me feel like I was raised for country living. It puts so much of this lifestyle into one book that I can understand, and it breaks it down as if I'm being taught by someone who loves me. So the garden, it goes through over gardening, trees, rabbits, poultry, cows, dairy animals. It goes over living sustainably, raising chickens, building structures, growing a garden, and preserving your harvest. It covers over things like natural skincare and herbal remedies. It's as if you had a neighbor or a grandmother that was down the street teaching you everything you needed to know. This book covers a wide array of country living skills and wisdom, and that's what I love. I want the wisdom. I want the skills, but I also want the wisdom. And this book definitely puts it there. I have not read the entire book. It's definitely a lot to take in, but I get to go through it more like a guide than like a novel. And so I can go through and find the different sections. You can see they have them tabbed out for you. I can go through the different sections and go more in depth into things I'm already interested in. And I'll assure you, I definitely can find more things I didn't know I was interested in just by flipping these pages, such as tapping into your maple trees. You can see it's definitely jam-packed. Just to give you a little overview about how in-depth this book is, let's just look at the section about chick water. So as you notice, it's not just about raising chicks, but it has its own section about chick water, watering types, teach them how to drink, keep their water clean, talks about where to place the water, the supplements, water do's and don'ts. So as you can see, that's even just on the topic of raising chicks and keeping their water. So the third book that I wanted to discuss with you is the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. This one is by Andrew Chevallier. I think I said that right. And he did a great job composing this book. There's a few sections in the beginning that I don't quite have the appreciation for, but I do really love in the core of the book. It goes over the different types of herbs and plants that are beneficial and why they're beneficial. It gives the habitat, related species, the key constituents, key actions, research, and traditional and current uses. My favorite part is that it goes over with images about what the different parts of the plant may look like, because sometimes I could have stinging nettle and it may not look like this. It may be I might be looking at the dried root of it or the seeds of it. I want to make sure that I have the correct plant to identify and what the uses are for it. You're not always going to have your phone on you if you're like me. And so having a book that can help me identify plants, but also understand what their uses are, that is super duper beneficial for me. So this book in particular isn't my, oh, you gotta have it kind of book. You can have a book similar to this, and especially multiple books that cover the same topic, because it's great to cross-reference, especially with anything having to do with herbal medicine, herbal remedies, things like that, as well as foraging, and foraging specifically to your area. So on my wish list, I definitely have books that are specific to Tennessee or even Middle Tennessee or the southeastern part of the United States for foraging. I want to be efficient in my foraging, and I definitely don't want to pick the wrong plant when I think it serves a different purpose. So books like this are great to have multiples of so you can cross-reference, and it gives such great ideas on how you can serve your family and help yourself in healing and in wellness with plants. One of the most used part in this book for me is the index, because it goes over all the different plants that are included, as well as the different ailments or issues you might be having, and if you want to find the plant that would be right for you. It also has an entire section on different problems you might be experiencing and the different remedies and herbs, as well as cautions you might want to consider. Another section I love is the harvesting and processing, because it tells you about the different parts of the plants and what parts to use when it's referencing roots, what's it talking about with that kind of thing, but also using the herbal remedies and how to construct these remedies with infusions, decoctions, tinctures, tonic wine syrups, capsules and powders, infused oils, ointments, all these different ways, and it shows you how to prepare. These books are definitely something we recommend. They're more like all-in-one homesteading companions. You have your traditional skills, country living and animal husbandry, packed with wisdom, as well as herbal remedies. These books serve more than just guides. They are our tangible homesteading library, and I plan on having a much bigger homesteading library in years to come, but this is a great place to start. I definitely feel well equipped with these, and I think you will too. Another book series that has been highly recommended both online and by neighbors is the Firefox series. If you've heard of it, let me know in the comments, because I'm definitely interested. From what I understand, it's a series about folklore and history, how rural living has changed through history. Now, I know I mentioned earlier that getting your hands on a good set of herbal remedies and foraging books is key, and I definitely still have some ideas for those books. But another topic that I think you guys should get in your homesteading library, which is on my wish list as well, is medical books. If somebody needs to be stitched up and you're too far from the hospital to get there on time, or if you need to know when to use a tourniquet and when to not use a tourniquet, this information is imperative and very helpful. So getting your hands on a good medical book is a great idea. So one medical guide that I saw recommended over and over and over again, and I checked it out myself, it looks incredible and definitely on my wish list, is the book called Where There Is No Doctor, A Village Healthcare Handbook by David Werner and a few other authors. There is another book out there that seems similar and has a very similar title, but this book in particular, I'll link it below, is one that is highly recommended. If you flip through the pages or you look at some screenshots online, you can see that there's a lot of information. If you need to give somebody a quick stitch, or you need to know when to use a tourniquet and when not to use a tourniquet, these things are essential. And so having a healthcare handbook that will walk you through as a guide with pictures and illustrations about how to perform certain medical procedures is definitely a worthwhile purchase. When we first moved out to our property, one of the first things I considered was how far away we were from emergency services. Now, we're a family and we have kids, and I wanted to make sure that I had the first aid kit that I needed, and I could put that together in another video about everything to have in a first aid kit or what to have in case of an emergency, because if you're not that close to a hospital or close enough for somebody, emergency services, to come to you, or even being able to find your property or your house on your big acreage, it's important that you have a way to take care of yourself and those you love. I hope you've enjoyed going over these book recommendations with me. It's definitely something I'm passionate about, and I hope it helps you to make your decisions that are best for you and your family. If you are interested in goats and alpacas, chickens, guineas, driving the tractor around, building stuff, fixing stuff, gardening, all that fun stuff, then check out the rest of our channel after you're done watching this video, because I think you're gonna love it. Now go comment below so we can make more videos.